Welcome back everyone to Phonics in Action. We are jumping into the interesting topic of high-frequency words. A high-frequency word is a word that crops up often in reading and writing. Many teachers call them sight words. It is a daily routine for many teachers, like having a cup of tea or coffee at morning break. They teach a small list of these words in the reading lesson because it is what they have to do. You may be thinking, where do these sight words come from? Who discovered them? Well, let's take a quick trip back in history to find out. The history of sight words goes back at least 90 years. Researchers in the 1930s counted how often words occurred in the books that children had to read in school. And they found that 100 or so words accounted for more than 50% of the words they read. The researchers reasoned that if teachers taught these sight words, it would be much easier for students to read their books. There have been many studies of word frequency since then, all coming up with the same results. A study in 2003 in the UK focused just on the words children read in Year 1 and found the same thing. The most frequent 100 words made up 50% of all the words the children read. What to me was even more interesting about the study was that they found that 62% of the 100 words were decodable one-syllable words. This was a good omen for teaching phonics because the first phase of phonics is to teach how to read one-syllable words. In addition, many of the words had regular spellings and were decodable. The only downside about the big 100 words was that very few words were meaningful. Only 11 of the 100 were content words like little that had some everyday meaning. Most of the words were articles, prepositions, and so on. They were glue words that tie the content words together, but in themselves have very little meaning. Words like the, and, to, in, he, I, of. Some of the words were irregular in the 100. They were hard to decode, but there were not too many. Students could learn these as tricky words. So what the history tells us is that high-frequency words seem to be worth learning. There is some debate about sight words. There is a difference between a sight word and a high-frequency word, like those words in the big 100. A sight word to a research expert is any word that you can read automatically, whether it's high frequency or low frequency, whether it's regular or irregular. Experts think of a sight word as the exact letters in the word mapped into our memory so well that we do not have to sound them out. We can recognize them immediately. The technical term for this is orthographic mapping. Sight words, therefore, can be any word at all, not just the ones in the big 100. A good reader stores many thousands of these sight words in memory. Now, of course, not every word will be a sight word. Even a good reader will come across new words that they do have to sound out. But the vast majority of words for a really good reader will be automatic. They will be sight words stored in their memory. So, does teaching high-frequency words move the boat faster? To be honest, There is no gold standard evidence that teaching high-frequency words like the Big 100 improves reading. But if these words are so common in our reading, then it makes sense that reading will be easier if students can recognize them straight away. To me, it is not clear why it does not transfer to actual reading of books, but it might be that we are not teaching children to use their phonics to help them learn the words. Mindlessly chanting the words every day, which I have seen, is not a good way to get on top of these words. In many studies, this is what they do. Drill the words until they sink in. In this session, though, we will not teach high-frequency words that way. We will use phonics to make the task easier. We will also emphasize speed, which is important. So the next question in your mind might be, does teaching high-frequency words do any harm? There is absolutely no evidence that teaching these high-frequency words does any harm. Next question, does it matter what we call the words? I think it does. It seems a small point, but there are some reasons not to say sight words in the classroom. First, it sends a message to students that learning to read is visual, that they have to remember the sight of the word. And this is not what you want. Visually, the shape of a word might look like a ship or an elephant. Students who lack phonics skills may think girl and dog are the same because they both have a G in them. It can only lead to disaster. They need a systematic way to read words. They have to sound them out. Relying on visual memory without phonics will fail. Second point is that saying sight words is not the truth. They are high-frequency words. I mean, some teachers avoid saying sight words, but then they make up stories about snap words or popcorn words that you have to pop out of your mouth. It is not the truth. It's better to explain to students that these words are high-frequency words. They are words that crop up a lot in their reading and writing. Put students in the picture. Explain that these words often crop up in stories and on the internet. Explain that they can sound out, many of them, but some of them are tricky to read. So let's look at diagnostics. Do we need to teach this? There are 4 clues that tell us there is a need to teach the Big 100. First, students do not understand why some words are hard to sound out. For example, a student asked me, why is it that you can sound out a word but it is still wrong? For example, some words sound like comb, but we say come. Yeah, this diagnostic clue tells us to explain to them that some of the high-frequency words they read, like come, are tricky. Point 2, students may be guessing without using their phonics skills. For example, in one classroom, the teacher showed the word should, but students yelled out, shout! They were guessing. Point 3, students may know some words, but not enough. They are not accurate. We surveyed students in grades 3 to 6. Most students read all 100 words correctly, but some struggled. The lowest score was 19 out of 100. Help! Point 4, students may be too slow. An aspirational goal for the student is to read 100 words in 1 minute. In our survey, most students did finish in 1 minute, but one student took 24 minutes to read 100 words. This is too long, 14 seconds per word. What can go wrong if I teach them? Nothing can go wrong. But when I watch teachers at work, I can sometimes see ways to coach them better. I watched one classroom where the Year 1 children read 10 to 12 high-frequency words on a chart each day. One day the teacher said they were tiger words: good, little, bread, and so on. Next day she said they were frog words: looking, children, girls, naughty, and so on. Next day, monkey words: birthday, liked, for, lunch, etc. Duck words: should, am, bears, boys, came, sleep, kind. What do you make of this? On the positive side, I liked that the charts had only a few words. This is good, not too many words. On the not so positive side, the choice of some words did not make sense. Some words were too hard for the children to decode at that point in their phonics knowledge. Words like birthday, bears, and naughty. They could only guess. A suggestion would be to put some of those words into a later session when it was well within their phonics skills. Words like bread. But this was too early. It was rote learning. It was a jumble. So let's look at teaching these lessons. First thing is, we do not have to teach all the big 100 words at once. Do them in chunks, choosing words on the list of 100 that students can use their emerging phonics skills to decode. The very irregular, tricky words the teacher can teach in small doses at a time. And the best way to teach them is to put a small set of words on a chart and the students then read the words. Start teaching the high-frequency words once you have taught the 26 letter sounds. At that point, students will be able to decode the regular words on the list as well. What I do is write out the words by hand on a chart, that chart. Let's call this set 1. This first set has 25 decodable words from the big 100. These are the words as, if, is, off, on, an, at, it, in, up, dad, had, and, big, his, got, mum, can, get, not, him, but, back, off. In addition, the chart has 6 tricky words. They are I, to, no, the, go, into. Practice the chart each lesson and build up speed. You can do some meaningful activities as well, like you point to several words and the students have to see what the sentence is. You're making a sentence. For example, I can go into it. Then the students can do that as well. They can point to the words and make a sentence that you have to read. For example, Dad is back. And once they can read the words accurately, encourage students to read them quickly. The best time I have seen for the 25 words is 20 seconds. Then there are the 6 tricky words. Best time is 2 to 3 seconds. The next sets of words you should only go to when students are secure in their knowledge of consonant digraphs, R and L controlled vowels, and the vowel digraphs. These sets. You can make up a chart for each set. Again, I like to write the words by hand, and you can see then that if the students know all their phonics rules, they can easily decode the regular words. I will read them out. So set 2, the regular words are will, that, this, then, them, with, see, for, now, down, look, to, her, you, all. The tricky words are he, she, we, me, be, was, they, are, my. Altogether 26 words. In set 3, the regular words are went, it's, from, children, just, help, when, out, and like. The tricky words so, do, said, have, some, come, were, there, little, one, what. That's 20 words. And in set 4, the regular words are don't, old, I'm, by, time, house, saw, about, you, day, made, came, make, looked, called. And the tricky words are put, oh, there, people, here, very, Mr., Mrs. And when you have taught the ED, that's when you do show them looked, called, asked. 25 words. Well, that's it. Thanks for watching. Let's sum up what we have done. In a nutshell, it's definitely worth teaching the big 100 most frequent words, but we need to do it in a structured way so that it makes sense to students and is not just a memory game. I hope you are convinced that we should not call the big 100 sight words, and certainly not tiger words or popcorn words. We should tell the truth. They are high-frequency words that crop up frequently in everything students read. Teach the 100 in bite-sized chunks that fit with the phonics program. We talked about the history of high-frequency words and found that they are 50% of the words we read. If your students can read them accurately and quickly, they are in good shape, and you have done a great job. It certainly does no harm, and it seems to help. My experience with teaching reading is that it sometimes does help the transition to reading books, including decodable books. I taught one student who could not cope with reading stories until we practiced the big 100. He still needed phonics instruction, but he was on the board. He was reading a story. He was on the way to reading. Students like to do this work. They like to beat their speed. It builds their confidence. It makes them feel confident, and confidence is so important. And most of all, they have fun.